this is Qubic.org. This is Qubic.org. This is them specifically stating that their intention was to attempt a 51% attack on Monero. I want to say that again because when I read this, there's no way you would intentionally do this. I mean, it's really good marketing, sure, but this is so toxic, especially in the internet age. You see people drop it. I just don't know how this is even a thing, but they do go on to say that Qubic has 3 times the profitability of Monero due to their scammy token burning bullshit. This is what they wanted to do. They wanted to alter the rules of Monero to say you only get paid if you mine Monero through Qubic. That's how that reads to me. And I don't want Qubic because you're manipulating the hell out of the supply. So I know any developer that's ever gone down this path of burning and manipulating supply has always had their best interest in mind over the people mining it. Period. That's kind of how Qubic started, and then they moved into, well, we're going to do the same thing, right? We're going to open up dual mining effectively, which is not really what it is, but or merge mining or whatever term you want to put onto it. What it was when we're not doing the use of proof full work stuff, we are going to mine Monero, right? So you provide your equipment to us, you'll still get paid out in Qubic, but we'll be getting Monero. Now, the way they sold this to everybody was effectively that with the Monero they earn, they will buy Qubic and then burn it. Now, I don't know about you, but this sounds like a scam. And maybe I'm just paranoid at this point and all of that. But anytime you manipulate the quantity of the currency that you hold to influence the price, obviously we get into gray area. And so this was already kind of a red flag surrounding Qubic. But they decided to go even further with this Monero experiment. And this was on Epoch 172, and here's the recap. So what they decided to do was, here's the first part, right? So 50% now goes to Qubic coin buybacks and burns, 50% to boost miner incentives for more CPU hash rate. So they're taking some of the half of the profits, burning the Qubic so the price goes up like we were talking about. They're taking the other half and paying that back to the miners to get more miners onto their network, right? So just playing games here at the end of the day. Now, it says 33.5 billion Qubic has burned at an average rate of $2,280 per B, same given to computers, miners, and miners as rewards. And they had a 2.7 gigahash peak hash rate, reaching 50% of global Monero hash rate. Now, the goal here's the thing that's crazy. This is Qubic.org, okay? This is Qubic.org. This is them specifically stating that their intention was to attempt a 51% attack on Monero. I want to say that again because when I read this, I see a tweet about it. There's no way you would intentionally do this. I mean, it's really good marketing, sure. But this is so toxic, like Tommy said, to the crypto community in general. There's that line, right? Where, you can, no such thing as bad press. And I think that's true to a certain extent, unless you're being malicious. And then I think once people see that you're being malicious, especially in the internet age, you see people drop it. I just don't know how this is even a thing, but They do go on to say that Qubic has 3 times the profitability of Monero due to their scammy token burning bullshit. And they want to attempt for a 51% attack on Monero. And that is continuing. So now it's not just they tried it in Epoch 172, they did a demonstration and then they quit. This is ongoing. They're currently trying to intentionally create a 51% attack. Now, they're saying they wouldn't actually do anything, but I don't believe them necessarily. And that's because of some of the ways that they talk about it, right? So if we go down, I believe it's here. As a part of implementing the base layer of outsourced computations, Qubic is testing its capabilities in a unique way by redirecting its vast compute resources to mine another coin, Monero. This is more than just about profitability. It's an economic demonstration to showcase Qubic's useful proof of work capabilities. In the initial weeks, Qubic alternated between spending 50% of its time mining Monero and 50% training its in-house AI Garth. This approach proved to be highly profitable, up to 3 times more than direct Monero mining, and attracted additional compute power to the network. The experiment escalated when the team explored the possibility of taking over the Monero protocol to alter its rules. They said it. Like, what? The goal was to ensure that only miners operating through Qubic would receive rewards. So they wanted, this is what they wanted to do. They wanted to alter the rules of Monero to say you only get paid if you mine Monero through Qubic. That's how that reads to me. And I don't want Qubic because you're manipulating the hell out of the supply. So I know any developer that's ever gone down this path of burning and manipulating supply has always had their best interest in mind over the people mining it. Period. The Epoch peaked at 2.3 gigahash a second, representing 45% of Monero's total hash rate, which set the stage for the test. The first takeover test was scheduled for Saturday, August 2nd, 2025. Drawing from past marathons where the network fully diverted compute to Monero mining, Qubic established clear guidelines. Public announcements for every move, allowing Monero to prepare defenses, no surprise attacks. I guess this is them justifying it or saying, see, we're not being bad. This is weird. Display internal hash rates on Qubic dashboards, but remove stats from public sites like mining pool stats, which they haven't been able to do, by the way. But they want to get rid of this. They don't want Qubic being reported. So they want to obfuscate what they're doing as well. Which seems dirty to me in the first place. Start with a pure 51% dominance attempt, then shift to selfish mining requiring only 33 to 40% hash rate. Increase marathons to 3 per week during the experiment. So on August 1st, leading into the marathon, Qubic's hash rate steadily increased, consistent with prior patterns. Miners contributed up to 48% of Monero's total hash rate, inching toward the 50% threshold. As the marathon approached, Qubic's infrastructure faced a mild DDoS attack, impacting some nodes and reducing tick quality, though the network persisted. Monero's overall hash rate rose, possibly from the rented third-party power to resist the takeover. Now, this is another thing that's been popping up. People are renting out hash rate and pointing it at Qubic. And I think really, honestly, if you care about crypto, it would be best to, mine directly. I've always said rentals are bad. We've talked about these problems before. Rentals damage networks and can be used by malicious people. This one is crazy because this is incentivized malicious behavior. It's nuts, dude. The marathon began amid ongoing intermittent attacks. The team restored nodes, boosting hash rate, while Monero pools added counter power, escalating into an all-out battle between miners, operators, and technicians. On August 3rd, the marathon continued under the strongest DDoS attack yet, lasting hours. Core infrastructure held with the chain taking and processing transactions, but peripherals like explorers and wallets saw outages. Hash rate dropped to as low as 25% as nodes disconnected. Notably, Qubic mining pools operate independently within their own security, which was rigorously tested. With attacks persisting, developers fortified nodes and services. Post-marathon, the network reverted to a 50-50 split between AI training and Monero mining, evident in rising hash rates, including a spike of 50% of Monero's total. On August 5th, the team weighted options, await more miners drawn by profitability to proceed to selfish mining, opting for action, come from beyond, announced on Discord. So this signaled Monero to bolster defenses, and Monero reportedly countered by listing Qubic public node IPs on sites like abuseipdb.com, which come from beyond dismissed on X, saying, no guys, still not a viable countermeasure against hidden adversary, keep thinking. So it goes on to say that on August 6th, DDoS attacks persisted, targeting peripherals and computer nodes, and lead dev DCAT node on Discord. Quote, I asked for a quote yesterday about $500 per IP for 25 hours with SYN, flood, and reflection attacks, so roughly $20K per day to target all Qubic nodes and ecosystem. They've been DDoSing us for 7 days straight now, so about $140,000 US dollars. The decentralized system showed resilience. Some nodes held firm, and this is, I think honestly this is marketing, but I think that it is malicious, and I think that it is negative for the cryptocurrency community as a whole. I'm not exactly sure, other than marketing, right? Like we go back to no press is bad press. I'm not sure the incentive. Now in chat, we can see that Weekly Rant says, I don't mine for profit, I mine for cash flow. And this is in response to Pirate, who said miners don't care, they will mine whatever pays most that day. Now, that is partially true, or it used to be true. I don't think it's as much true anymore, primarily due to the fact that miners are mining a lot of speculative stuff. Miners are mining for future profitability. But if you damage Monero, you damage the entire crypto ecosystem as a whole, right? And I think, so another response to that was, normally that's the case. I hope that people wouldn't mine a project that is openly stating they would be doing something that would harm crypto as a whole, which is what I just noted. And it's short-sighted. So here's what I think. I think that what I want to say to everybody is, you do have a CPU sitting around your house. I think you should point it to a non-Qubic pool. For example, I think support XMR would be great, right? And I think you should let it run to support Monero. Monero is one of the last principal cryptocurrencies in existence. It's maintained availability to general consumers via CPU mining. It maintains privacy. It promotes self-custody, and it is transactional in the manner of which it has relatively low fees, relatively quick transactions, and it's been around for a long time, and it holds to those principles. So I think supporting Monero would be good. I think it would be net negative if Qubic took it over and then made it to where you had to mine Qubic or Monero through Qubic. I think a reason for them to do this, to be completely honest, and this is the conspiracy theory, so throw on your tinfoil hat, is that Qubic is not a privacy blockchain, which means if they can at least get the miners to be pointing to them, then you expose one link in the chain of a privacy chain, and you leverage control over that to remove any privacy that Monero might have. We've talked about Zephyr doing the merge mining before. This isn't necessarily the same because it's not, it comes down to intent, Snake. So the intent of Zephyr was not specifically stated to take over the network, right? And intent really is everything. Like if you go into a court of law, intent is what matters. And it has been specifically stated that their intent is to change the rules of Monero. And it was specifically stated that they want it to be to where nobody gets paid out Monero unless they're mining directly through Qubic. So once again, intent is everything. And we can be like, I'm sure there's like 30 people are like, Zephyr did the same thing. Don't you think they're bad too? No, the intent's completely different, right? And that's really what you need to counter those arguments with. It's such a common thing for people to kind of do. Well, it happens in politics all the time, right? It's like, well, Trump did this and Biden did the same thing, but Biden did this, well, Trump did the same thing. And it's like, let's make sure we understand the intent of all parties involved, and then we can pass judgment via that, right? Hey, what's up, Matt? Says, happy Saturday. Where do they get the money to pay the miners to do this? That's your question. Well, my understanding is half. So they're inflating the price of their coin. Right? So what's going on is that they are burning a bunch of their Qubic, which is, let's look at the price though, because that is a good point. How is this working if the price of Qubic isn't going up? Let's look at, so that's 1 year. I mean, since they start, when did this start, right? So that's Epoch 172. So August 7th when they wrote this. I think I read it was like July something through July 30th through August 6th. If we look at the price, right here's the 19th. The first big uptick is on the 21st. So yeah, as they're running this epoch, they're just selling off. They're burning and artificially increasing the price of Bitcoin, of Qubic, and then probably selling that Qubic off, which is what they said they were doing, to then incentivize miners to come over to their network. Eventually, they run out of money if they're not successful, right? So they're utilizing the rewards from the Monero to buy their own coin, which also causes their own coin to go up, and then burning that coin to cause the coin to go up even more. And they probably already have large holdings, right? So there probably needs to be a massive block explorer, deep dive on what the inflows and outflows are. But that is at least a portion of where they're getting all the money to do that. And yes, the plan B will be to dump, right? They're just manipulating the price of Qubic with what the actual valuable asset, which is Monero. And they're using that to manipulate the price of their own token at the end of the day. You're basically mining Monero for them to fuck you over. That's what you're doing. Eventually it can't last forever. Right? Because if you're a miner, so let's just say all the miners mine for profit only. And so they all mine Qubic, but they're fully aware of what Qubic's doing. So to not lose out, they're going to sell every day, right? So they're going to sell their Qubic every day. The chain can only maintain that for so long. And so it doesn't, it's not sustainable is what I'm saying, right? And the only reason it's sustainable is if they can burn half of the Qubic that they're paying out, that they're earning, right? So that's, which is what they're doing. And I bet if they rerun the math, they might change those percentages too. They might start burning 80% and paying 20% out to the miners, right? And that probably depends on what's going on with all that stuff. If we look at Monero here, this one's a little longer. So July 30th. This is interesting too, because you see that they have been mining majority of the Monero, and it has been having a negative impact on the price of Monero since the 30th of July. So they really are dumping the Monero that you're mining for them right away. And then the other question is, why pick a privacy chain to do this? Oh, the fun argument. So Snake brings up that XMR screwed up staying ASIC resistant. Well, what's the X5? See, I heard this argument briefly, and it just isn't true, because you can still rent SHA-256. If Qubic decided to do this with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin all of a sudden became 3x more profitable to mine, you're going to tell me you don't think that 50% of the large ASIC miners wouldn't move over? That's just stupid. Of course they're going to move over. Type of hardware has no impact. You can rent SHA-256 on NiceHash right now. Plus, there's the X5. So I don't think that it has any impact. I think this happens regardless of algorithm. That's me. Now, what do you mean they couldn't afford it? The price would go up, or they'd be making more revenue. If this exact scenario was on Bitcoin, we would still be talking about the exact same thing. I don't see how it would affect it at all. In fact, the availability, how much can you rent right now? Yeah, I'm not buying that if it was ASICs, it would be different at all. Who couldn't afford it? They're not doing it. They're influencing people by incentivizing them with money. Right? So the hash power isn't rented, and the majority of the hash power used to do this isn't being rented or done by the project itself. It's literally being done by incentivizing people with 3x profit, which is what they're advertising, over mining Monero directly. If you incentivized Marathon Digital to make 3 times the profit, or all of the big ASIC miners, if you incentivize them with 3 times the amount of revenue, they would all move over. The hardware doesn't matter. Anyways, I would be curious to see how much of the rentals are impacting this, or how much of it is rentals versus farms. Now, the thing about CPU mining that I've always said is a problem is botnets have a large amount of control over it. And it's very easy to steal CPU hash power, whether it be through browser hijacking or cryptojacking on idle data centers, all that sort of stuff. A lot of that goes on, right? With CPU mining in particular. And I think that, like, when we talk about different types of hardware, that's an issue that CPU mining has that's unique to CPU mining. So the percentage of the pie that is cryptojacking versus rental versus direct mining would be interesting, or farm mining, right? Son of a Tech, they're not understanding that they are not paying directly for the hash rate, but giving more rewards than everybody else for the same job. Correct. That's what they're doing. So the hardware, it's hardware agnostic. This attack is hardware agnostic because it comes down to incentives. I always say, like, if you want to fix the world, you have to fix the incentives, right? And this is an example of incentivizing in a negative manner. And that is basically all they're doing. IoT says, indeed, those of us deep into CPU mining all know when we see a certain person join a Discord, the Chinese botnet is about to join. That is true. I think that's going to wrap it up, though. I mean, if you guys want details on a 51% attack, I've done videos over it in particular. Just a brief overview, that means over 50% of the network hash rates coming from a single entity. That is what they're attempting. And the power that they're using, or the thing that they're going to use that power for, is they can reverse transactions, block transactions, monopolize mining rewards, and rewrite the blockchain history. In their particular case, they want to block all transactions that are mined from anybody that's not mining through Qubic. That's their goal in particular. So that's what a 51% attack allows you to do, and that's what they are trying to do. I think it has to be sustained, which is why, so for them to be fully successful, obviously 51% attacks have happened before. Some have resulted in forks, and it really depends. I think it's fair to say that it is unlikely, but that's also why their strategy is sustained rewards, right? And so that's why they're structuring it as such, is because of the sustained rewards. Now, I don't know what their income split between the Monero mining itself and the training of their AI. It sounds like it's training an in-house AI. So where those funds come from to pay the miners for, I don't know. To Matt from Viper's point there is, potentially 50% or more of the reward that's kind of coming out of thin air, right? unless they are making it all up. If I looked at this before, it's been a while, but not wallet. I want I'd have to deep dive this later. I guess I shouldn't do it now. There's GitHub. Do they have, I was just looking for a block explorer. Because it'd be kind of curious to see. No. Oh, they're trying not to get DDoSed. There's a lot of big wallets. We need to pull this and run run it so we can get some graphs. Trade ogre. Oh. So people were asking me about Trade Ogre. I don't have any news on that, guys. When I find out, I'll let you know. Snake says nobody holds XMR. It's a hot potato. Well, that kind of makes it the only cryptocurrency that's been successful to be a currency. Right? At the end of the day, fair enough. At least in my opinion. So Monero did post, I think that's today, right? August 16th, that fire up your miners to support the Monero network and enhance its security. This is the only thing that I saw from them that was talking about it at all. Seems like everybody involved is kind of tiptoeing around the subject, and whoever is in control of the Monero X account, and whenever you talk about this, and I should do better about it too, we need to state that Qubic is doing this. The reason I'm firing up my Monero miners and pointing them to support XMR is because we have a malicious intentional attack from another blockchain project. Snake, you're wrong. You can keep saying that if XMR was ASIC, this would never happen. You're just factually wrong. The incentive is there. Marathon Digital on Bitcoin would swap over, or some other big one. Everybody would swap over to get the revenue. It's literally no different. It's no different at all, because it's incentive structure. It's hardware agnostic. It just is. Anyways, back to this. Looks like right now they're 35.5% of the known hash rate at Qubic.org. They're trying to get rid of this entry, or Qubic is. Support XMR is one that you can pop onto. Now that does have the most hash rate. You technically want to balance it out. The best would be to solo mine, and maybe you get lucky while you're solo mining. So that would be cool. The list is over on miningpoolstats.stream/Monero.